Hi dear fans, friends and subscribers, welcome to the Cricket Happening Show with your host Ram. As you know, this is a late Cricket Happening Show that I normally do on a Saturday, as you all know. And well, as far as this Cricket Happening Show is concerned, well, it is going to be a synopsis. As you know, it's a late night cricket show, so it's not going to be something that I'm going to do a sort of report or something of that, but sort of a summary, just talking about the game. So there are two matches that happened today. And that was first was the match between Sri Lanka and Pakistan, where Sri Lanka got a slender lead in the innings because Sri Lanka made 320 all out, as you remember, and Pakistan today, and this was actually day three today at stumps. Day three today, and Pakistan actually replied with 332. So Pakistan were the ones actually who took the lead by 12 runs. The feature being Sarfraz Ahmed, the wicketkeeper batsman. As I was been talking about him in my previous two Cricket Happening show, that Pakistan have definitely found an answer to the wicketkeeper batsman for themselves. And Sarfraz Ahmed today did some good counter-attacking to score a century, and this was a century which this is the first wicketkeeper from Pakistan who has ever made a century in Sri Lanka. And what a knock that was. It was his maiden test century, and when he got to his century, he was absolutely ecstatic as he went with a loud roar. In fact, it reverberated around the stadium. It was such a loud roar that he did, and he raised his bat, and Sarfraz Ahmed went on to score his maiden test century, 103 with 7 fours and 1 6, and Pakistan were all out for 332. Now, as far as Sri Lanka were concerned, there was another record that happened. Herath became the first left-arm bowler in the annals of Test history to take 9 wickets in an innings. In fact, his bowling analysis, 33.1 overs, 3 maidens, 127 runs and 9 wickets. 9 wickets for 127 runs. There's no left-armer of any country who has actually taken 9 wickets in a single innings in Test cricket. And Herath went on to that proud record today. He's become the first left-arm spinner in the world, in the cricketing world, to have taken 9 wickets in a single innings. And today he had figures of 9 wickets for 127 runs. What a great bowler. In fact, even after the absence of Muthiah Muralidharan, Herath has definitely been delivering the goods, and that's what he precisely did. And Sri Lanka, well, they replied at close of play. They closed at 177 for 2, and I'm sure the fourth day, I'm sure it is going to be a real sellout here as far as the SSC Sports Ground in Colombo is concerned, because one is seeing Mahela Jayawardene for the last time in Test cricket, and he was unconquered. He was not out on 49 with 7 beautifully hit stroke boundaries. Sangakarra was giving him company with a 54 to his name. I'll come back to that. So this is as far as the Sri Lankan game was concerned between Pakistan and Sri Lanka. But let's have a look at the match between England and India. Well, England continued to pound the Indians. As you know, India didn't really do well in the first innings. They made only 148, and at stumps, England had England had taken a very sizable lead of 237 runs with 3 wickets still remaining, and the score read 385 for 7 at close of play on day 2 of this final test of the Investec Test Series between India and England, which was played at the Kennington Oval here in London. And England 385 for 7. Today it was 92. Joe Root played a very, in fact, normally Joe Root is a person who likes to plod around, but today he interspersed his defense with very good strokes, very good range of strokes in fact, and he was there not out on 92 at stumps with 9 fours and 1 6. He got good company from Butler, who made 45 with 9 boundaries, and as I said, England were absolutely in the box seat at 385 for 7 going into the third day, and I'll come back to that. But first, let's go to that match which we want to talk about, and that is the match between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. As I said today, let's see what really happened. So Pakistan resumed at that overnight score with Sarfraz Ahmed and Abdul Rahman at the crease, the tail ender. And well, Sarfraz Ahmed was the only talking point because he used the cut shot and the sweep shot to good effect, and he understood that the tail enders couldn't give him much company even though they tried their best. Abdul Rahman was a victim of Herath today for 16 with 2 boundaries. Wahab Riaz was also gone to Herath for 17 with 2 boundaries. Saeed Ajmal was clean bowled by Herath for 4, and Junaid Khan was not out on 13. But look at Sarfraz Ahmed. Sarfraz Ahmed, in fact, not only gave Pakistan that slender lead, a psychological advantage of 12 runs, but also he went on to make his maiden Test century. And as I said, in Pakistan have definitely found an answer as far as the wicket-keeping slot is concerned now, because he's a good keeper and he's also contributing. I think Sarfaraz Ahmed has definitely arrived on the international scene now for Pakistan. So Sarfaraz Ahmed, keep up the good work. His maiden Test century, and he was the one who was also, his wicket was also taken by Rangana Herath. And the way that Sarfaraz Ahmed actually reached his century was something very commendable. It required a lot of guts to do that. He actually swept Angelo Matthews for a 6 and a 4, I reckon, and he got on to his maiden Test century. And this was a congratulations to Sarfaraz Ahmed, and that is the reason Pakistan could take the lead, 332. But look at that effort from Rangana Herath. As I said, the first left-arm spinner in the annals of Test history. Now let me tell you, dear fans, friends, subscribers, when I say a spinner, there are people who have taken 9 wickets. Anil Kumble is one, but from India, Jim Laker of England. But let me tell you, he is the first left-arm spinner. No left-arm spinner ever in the annals of Test history has taken 9 wickets in a single innings, and that is the admirable feat that Rangana Herath, the left-arm spinner, has performed. Not a big turner of the ball, but relies on very good line, and also definitely he does not have prodigious turn, but definitely he gets some turn. He really balls in the right way. And look at his bowling figures. He makes such happy reading. 33.1 overs, 3 maidens, 127 runs, and 9 wickets in the bargain. Magnificent bowling figures. Damika Prasad, none for 53, 16-4, 53, none. Velagadra, 18 overs, 2 maidens, none for 65. Angelo Matthews, 9 overs, 1 maiden, none for 21. And Pereira, 17 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 63. What a job by Rangana Herath. 9 wickets in a single innings. Well, the lesser said, I think it's really said, I mean, one has to really speak more and more about this bowler, Rangana Herath. After the absence of Muthiah Muralidharan, every time he has come, he has definitely delivered for Sri Lanka, and that is something that Sri Lanka will be pretty happy about. So, as I said, 12 runs, it was a very slender lead thanks to Sarfaraz Ahmed, who gave them the lead with that maiden century. And then Sri Lanka in the second leg, well, they started off, the openers put on another decent partnership of 50 for the first wicket before Abdur Rahman, the left-arm spinner, provided them the wickets. As first he picked up the wicket of Kaushal Silva, caught by Yunus Khan for 17 with 1 boundary, and then Upal Tharanga once again continuing in the same vein that he did in the first innings, but when his score reached 45 with 5 boundaries, he was a victim of Abdur Rahman, as Abdur Rahman got some turn and clean bowled him, and he was gone for 45, and the score at 79 for 2 at that stage. And at that time there were 2 veteran batsmen in the middle, and well, I need not give any prizes for guessing, dear friends subscribers. It was none other than Kumar Sangakarra and Mahela Jayawardene. Well, as Mahela Jayawardene walked in, the Pakistani team really had a huddle, in the sense they had a guard of honor, and they started having some joking with Mahela Jayawardene. Was also in the right, took it in the right spirit, with Yunus Khan patting him, and it was very good to see a lot of camaraderie going on. And Jayawardene was walking into playing his last innings of his international Test career, and Kumar Sangakarra and Jayawardene then definitely saw to it that things improved for Sri Lanka from a score of 79 for 2, and at close they had taken the Sri Lankan score to close on day 3 of this final Test match to 177 for 2. So essentially meaning that if you knock off the 12 runs, it is 165 runs that Sri Lanka were ahead. So Sangakarra had already raked up a 50. He was not out on 54 with 4 boundaries, but well, the cynosure of all eyes was Mahela Jayawardene, and why not? He played some wonderful strokes, some delightful strokes. One really saw some very good, towards the end of the day, one saw Mahela Jayawardene coming down with his twinkling feet and lofting Abdur Rahman with the turn over the extra cover region for a boundary, which he normally does to all the spinners, as he is a very good player of spin, and also his driving was absolutely impeccable, and it was very good to see as Kumar Sangakarra and Jayawardene stitched together a partnership of unbroken 98 runs to take Sri Lanka to close at 177 for 2. So for Mahela Jayawardene, as far as the record books go, tomorrow if he gets gets his score to 91, he would have made 10,000 runs in Test cricket, and what a feeling that would be. not only that, and after that if he gets another 9 runs, well, he would have gone on to his another century at the SSC, and I'm sure Mahela Jayawardene would be eyeing that 100 mark tomorrow when he walks into the into the home ground, that is on the SSC on the 4th day, and wish him good luck. He truly deserves it. Such a great batsman, and definitely Sri Lanka would be missing him once he retires tomorrow. And one only hopes for Sri Lanka's sake and Jayawardene's sake that Jayawardene goes on to score a century, and Sri Lanka could really pile on the pressure on Pakistan. Wahab Riaz, 14 overs, 1 maiden run for 50. Abdul Rahman was the only wicket taker. 24 overs, 3 maiden, 65 runs and 2 wickets. Saeed Ajmal wicketless, but bowled very well. 23 overs, 5 maiden, 47. And Shahzad bowling 2 overs for 5 runs. So Sri Lanka definitely have a lot of work to do, no doubt about it. But the all eyes would be on one person, and that would be Mahela Jayawardene, as he's playing his last innings of his international test career. And I wish him loads of good luck to go on to make another century, which has been his happy hunting ground as far as his international test career is concerned. And tomorrow, if at all he scores one, that would be his 11th test century at his home ground, the SSC, the Sinhala Sports Club ground here in Colombo. So let's leave from the match between Sri Lanka and Pakistan now and head towards the Kennington Oval in London, where let's have a look at how England fared against India. And as I said, England have already taken a sizable lead of 237 runs going into day 3 tomorrow at the Kennington Oval. And today it all started with two persons at the crease, but for India, well, as you know, they had actually yesterday they had lost the wicket of I think in fact India got an early breakthrough. In fact, yesterday they were I reckon they didn't lose any wicket, but Varun Arun was the one who provided the breakthrough for India early in the morning today, when Sam Robson was the first to be dismissed. He was clean bowled by a pacey delivery from Varun Arun, and he was gone. Bowled by Arun for 37 with 6 boundaries, which made the score 66 for 1. After that, Gary Ballance and Cook started compiling a very good partnership. In fact, they put up a very good partnership. In fact, they added 125 runs for the second wicket, with Alistair Cook definitely getting into form now, no doubt about that. Gary Ballance, well, he has been such a consistent performer, and look at the knock that he played. In fact, Alistair Cook made 79 with 9 fours, and that was the time, like at 191, I would say that England were absolutely on the ascendant. And suddenly after lunch, suddenly things started happening for India, and India reduced England from 191 for 2 to a score of 229 for 5. With the second wicket to go, after lunch, India really came back into the game by knocking 4 English wickets. First, they knocked off the wicket of Alistair Cook. Again, Varun Arun was the man of the moment there, as he got Alistair Cook to nick 1 to Murli Vijay, and he was gone for 79 with 9 boundaries. Gary Ballance, I've always been telling, he has been such a consistent performer for England, and 13 fours, I mean strokeful knock of 64 from Gary Ballance. Played the strokes on the offside pretty well, drove well, and 64 runs with 13 fours. It was a really treat to watch. And Gary Ballance's wicket was picked up by Ravichandran Ashwin, caught by Pujara of the bowling Ashwin for 64 with 13 boundaries. Now after that, Ian Bell's wicket was taken by Ishan Sharma. Ishan Sharma got a ball that actually straightened, and Ian Bell was a goner, as he had actually got a nick onto it, and Dhoni behind the stumps did the rest, and Ian Bell was gone for 7 with no boundaries. So that made the score 204 for 4. And then Moeen Ali came in. I was not looking pretty confident, but after that, Ravichandran Ashwin was the one who actually had Moeen Ali bowled by a ball that turned through the gate, and Moeen Ali was dismissed, bowled for 14 to 1. He was definitely tested by Varun Arun with a lot of bouncers, but Moeen Ali stood the test. But then the wicket taker was Ravichandran Ashwin, and suddenly, as I said, England was sailing smoothly at one point of time at 191. Suddenly looked like suddenly they fell into some sort of bother at 229 for 5. After that, Joe Root was the man at the crease, joined in by Joss Butler, and then it was once again runs started coming. 80 runs were added, and let me tell you, that partnership was pretty not breezy, but it was a pretty good partnership which ensued for the 6th wicket between Josh Buttler and Joe Root. Well, Joe Root today, what we saw, normally he likes to really stay at the wicket, but let me tell you, today it was a different ball game for Joe Root. Joe Root definitely showed, we all know that he's a very good player. At the other end, Josh Buttler was also giving him company. Josh Buttler, well, he was stroking the ball perfectly and superbly. And, the situation was so tailor-made not so tailor-made, but definitely Buttler decided that it's better to attack the spinners, attack the pace bowlers. That's what he precisely did. But Joe Root, well, as I said, he interspersed his defense with some very nice strokes that he played. And that partnership went on to add 80 runs, 80 valuable runs. And definitely England recovered from the score of 229 for 5 to 309, and that was the time it was Ishan Sharma who picked up the wicket of Josh Buttler, who was caught by Ashwin for 45 with 9 boundaries. And after that, Chris Woakes' wicket was taken by Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar only got 1 wicket, and that was of Chris Woakes. He was gone for a duck, and finally the score became 318 for 7. And after that, there was one more participant. Joe Root, as I said, realized that he's the only recognized batsman left. Joe Root decided that he's going to play his strokes, and he played his strokes marvelously. And he went on to score 92. And there was another partnership that happened. And this time, this partnership for the 8th wicket was between Joe Root, who was not out on 92 at close of play with 9 fours and 1 6, and keeping him company was Chris Jordan, who was not out on 19 with 2 boundaries. And once again, from 318 for 7, once again there was a recovery for England, as the score at close of play stood at 385 for 7. So if you look at it, it is almost like 67 runs unbroken partnership for the 8th wicket. And I'm sure that England want to make sure that India, that they don't allow, in fact England probably don't want to bat again, because 385, and probably we are looking at probably with Joe Root still at the crease, and still Broad and Anderson. Broad is an all-rounder, is yet to come, and then James Anderson can also play, as we all know. And I think England would probably eyeing 500 runs here, and really pile on the pressure on the Indians. And why not? They definitely need to do that, and India have only themselves to blame for it. So 385 for 7 was the final tally for England on day 2. Now looking at the bowling figures, the wickets, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar just got a solitary wicket towards the end of the day, 24 overs, 3 maidens, 86 runs and 1 wicket. Ishan Sharma, 24 overs, 8 maidens, 58 runs and 2 wickets. I thought he bowled pretty well. Varun Arun, 25, a bit costly, but still he got 2 wickets for India. He gave the breakthrough. He got both the openers, in fact, 25 overs, 1 maiden. Nelson, as you call it in England, 111 runs and 2 wickets. And Stuart Binney was wicketless, and he was also not really sticking to a good line, and he was really punished by the English batsmen, especially by Buttler and all the other batsmen. Joe Root, 12 overs, none for 58. Ashwin was amongst the wickets, 20 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 55, and that was the story of the day as far as the Kennington Oval was concerned on the 2nd day of this Investec Test match, 5th Investec Test match. Well, dear fans and subscribers, that really brings an end to this cricket happening show of mine. I hope you all enjoyed this late night cricket show of mine on Saturday. Thanks for your admirable company to this show. Your host Ram will be seeing you tomorrow. That's on a Sunday, and that would be what I would be really glad to share, if at all, Mahela Jayawardene on his home ground at the SSC, on his last innings of his international test career, would go on to make a century tomorrow. He is just 51 short of the target, and wish him good luck. Well, on this note, I would like to end my cricket happening show for today. Thanks, and have a good night, dear friends and subscribers. Thank you.